To our learning session about the 4-HBC Ambassador Program. I'm going to share my screen here, and we're going to tell you all about the Ambassador Program. So here's our agenda for the evening. We're going to do some introductions of you all. I'll pause the recording during the introductions, so those won't be included. Then we're just going to talk a little bit about what is the Ambassador Program? What are the expectations of ambassadors? We're then going to do a little bit of an overview so you can get a sense of what happens in the Ambassador Program over the course of a year. We're going to touch base on the ambassador checklist, reporting, and benchmark. So this is kind of the actual project work that the ambassadors do. And then what you're really probably most interested in is talking with a few ambassadors. So we have Jezebel and Jesse and Malvina on the line. They're all current ambassadors. So they're all going to answer some questions for you about their experiences. Danusha's going to ask them some really helpful questions. And then we're going to talk a little bit at the end about what is next. If you're interested in this program, what does an application look like? What can you expect? So hopefully that all sounds good. And certainly we'll have lots of time for questions. If you have specific questions, don't hesitate to ask. You can throw up your hand or just unmute yourself or type them in the chat. What is an ambassador? Kind of what is the definition? What's the program all about? So this is from a document that's kind of part of the job description of an ambassador. So an ambassador is an ambassador for HBC in the province and in your home region. Ambassadors need to be knowledgeable about 4-H programs and current affairs. Ambassadors need to exemplify the knowledge, leadership, citizenship, and personal development skills that the 4-H program in BC is recognized for. Ambassadors are expected to demonstrate a high degree of maturity in dealing with a variety of situations. Ambassadors, of course, would be expected to comply with all standards and expectations set out by the 4-H agreement when in attendance at 4-H events. Obviously, ambassadors are like role models for other members. So not just we kind of want you to exemplify the expectations of excellent behavior in the 4-H program. One who clearly understands their roles and responsibilities at the events that they're attending. And we provide some training about those things to selected ambassadors. And ambassadors are involved in promoting 4-H. Ambassadors participate in local, district, and regional promotional events at the request of their key leader or potentially staff. That could be youth development staff or 4-HBC staff like Danusha and myself. You act as a resource. And you represent members at events in your region. You need to be willing to commit time as required. So the minimum required time for the ambassador program is 10 days or 10 sort of activities per year for 2 years. So the ambassador program is a 2-year commitment, not like most projects that are just a 1 year or portion of a year. And you do need to be a resident of BC for at least a portion of each year of your term. So we do have ambassadors who attend university away from their home region or even away from the province, and that works as long as you're going to be living in the province for a part of the year. So maybe on school holidays, have a summer job back in BC, that sort of thing. And one who enthusiastically believes in the value of the 4-H program and is excited about sharing that enthusiasm with others. So what does the ambassador program look like? Well, ambassadors are selected in January typically, and we're going to talk about what that selections process looks like at the end of this meeting. And then we usually start in January with a virtual meeting of our team. We have another virtual meeting in March. These pieces will include some orientation and we might have some special training topics. The meetings are usually about 60 to 90 minutes. And they usually are on a weeknight evening around a similar time to what we're meeting at now, 7:30. We meet annually in May for a training weekend, and that's hosted in Langley. So the May long weekend, we always meet with the ambassadors at Trinity Western University in Langley, and we do kind of from Friday night until noon on Monday, a training session, and we do lots of fun stuff there. Including some team building. We do a lot of workshops. Our second-year ambassadors will do some teaching to our first year ambassadors. We might do some brainstorming around special projects that we have for the ambassador team in the year ahead. It is a requirement of ambassadors to participate in that training weekend, both of the 2 years. It's really, really fun, but just for planning purposes, both of the 2 years, you would need to be there to continue and complete your 2 years as an ambassador. We have a virtual meeting in July again, and then one in September. We have an achievement deadline for submitting your ambassador work by October 15th. And then we have another virtual meeting in November, and new ambassadors will start on January 1st of the next year. So that's a little bit of kind of the flow of the program. We have, as you can see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 virtual meetings and 1 in-person opportunity. We also communicate together like through a chat group and through emails and things like that throughout the year. So what is an ambassador doing, outside of those 5 connection opportunities? Well, the ambassador program is really intended to be quite self-directed and 2-year schedule. So ambassadors are expected to take responsibility to make sure that they get their minimum of 10 activities done for the year. 10 is like the baseline expectation. We have ambassadors that do far above and beyond. We have an award for our top ambassador each year, and that person on some occasions has done, Danusha, what would you say? I don't know, 40, 50 activities, probably in some cases.
Well, we'll teach you some tips too on how to double dip on some of those activities so that you can get more than one check mark on your checklist.
Yeah, for sure. Like as an example, I think to Danusha's point, if you were going to a fair and maybe you were asked to MC something, you could get a check mark for that. And then maybe at the same event, you were also judging. Maybe you were judging Clover Buds or something like that. That potentially could be 2 different points. But when you do work as an ambassador, your minimum of 10 activities, you submit them to us. We have a Google Drive for each ambassador where they upload a report of the work that they did, their ambassador activities, and we count them on a checklist like this. So we ask the ambassadors to try to do at least one activity in the various categories. So let me walk through it. You have to complete the following things each year: attend the training and participate in the online training sessions. Obviously, people have complex schedules, a group of young people, so we do record the training sessions, but we really would encourage in-person participation as much as possible, and watching recordings only in an emergency. All key leaders also need to write an introduction letter to their key leader and send it to all of the key leaders for their region, just so that people know you're available. Ambassadors don't just serve their club or their district, they serve the whole region. And that's not to say that you need to go everywhere that you're invited to go, but we encourage ambassadors to work beyond their immediate club and their district they already know quite well. So quite a few of you are from the Kamloops Okanagan region, so that includes Kamloops, Salmon Arm, Kelowna, Boundary. All of those areas are part of the same region, and so the ambassador selected for that region, it's for the whole area. So that's why it's important to introduce yourself to key leaders so that you can be invited to things beyond the folks that already know you. We have also usually an annual teaching topic that is selected. Sometimes it's about things like the 4-H Foundation. Sometimes it's, doing a presentation to a special community group or something like that. And we would always deliver training on what that teaching topic is at the training weekend. And then everybody's expected to do at least one presentation of that. Thanking sponsors is also a must. And so Danusha provides some instructions on how to thank our ambassador program sponsors and at least another 4 provincial sponsors. Then we have 5 other categories of activities, and we encourage ambassadors to complete at least one activity in each of the following 5 categories. So creating content for 4-HBC social media, we really love that because you folks, ambassadors and members, are on the ground. So it's so nice to be able to show what's happening across the province. So that instruction is provided about how to do that. But there's a really good opportunity to just send posts or connect posts to 4-HBC social media to get credit there. Also, article writing is the next category, and that could be either for the 4-H newsletter or could be for like your community paper, or maybe industry magazine. I know lots of ambassadors have written articles for like Beef in BC or the Holstein News or those sorts of publications. The next category is public presentations, and this could be staffing or taking a display to a public event to inform the public about 4-H. It could be a visit to an elementary school, could be an interview. So article writing is one category, but if you get interviewed and then someone else writes the article, that could fit here. Distributing promotional posters about a 4-H event, guiding a farm tour on behalf of 4-H, doing a float, any other public presentation, maybe you're at the Rotary Club talking about 4-H, something like that, or representing 4-H as a volunteer for another organization. For example, Youth and Agriculture Foundation has an annual fundraiser that they invite ambassadors to help out at as volunteers. That all fits under public presentations. The next category is promotion within 4-H, and this is probably where we see the highest numbers, I would say. Do you agree, Danusha? There's lots of opportunity here. This is all your 4-H sort of helping at events. So that could be hosting or cheering a 4-H competition or event as an MC, etc. It could be helping out at shows as a ring clerk or handing out ribbons. Could be helping with games and recreation at an event. So maybe you do the games before the judging rally, that sort of thing. Or it could be supporting or attending a council meeting at either the regional or district level, either attending in person or submitting a written report. And the last category is 4-H education. So that has to do with teaching 4-H program skills, such as communications, teaching 4-H project skills related to whatever project you have expertise in. You could be, under certain circumstances, invited to be an official judge at a 4-H competition. This would fit here. You might have an opportunity to facilitate at a junior camp or organize your own 4-H event. So certainly we also welcome creativity, and this list has kind of evolved over the years as ambassadors have tried different things. These are the most common things, but I'd say at least once or twice a year we get something out of the box and we just write that on the bottom. Essentially, if you're out in the community representing 4-H or helping 4-H, you can get credit for it as an ambassador activity, as long as we typically say it needs to be above and beyond what you would be doing as a normal senior member. So while we would give you a little bit of credit for helping out in your own club, we probably wouldn't want to see more than 1 or 2 activities specifically with your own club, because that's what you would have been doing as a senior member in your club anyways. We want to see you reaching out a little bit more broadly into the 4-H community. Okay. I feel like I've given a lot of information. So before we move on, maybe we should just pause in case anybody has a burning question right now. Does anybody have a question? And welcome, Chloe. I see Chloe has joined us. Okay. Well, keep thinking about those questions. We'll keep going and you'll have another opportunity if one comes to mind. Okay. So the next piece is just a sample. So how do you report these activities when you do them? You fill out an activity sheet, and these can be submitted via our Google Drive system or emailed in if you have Google Drive challenges, as people sometimes do. So this is kind of the level of reporting that's required. It's not too heavy. When you do an activity, you just kind of have to fill out this form explaining what did you do, when did you do it, who participated, and providing some details of the event. So here was one of our previous ambassador, Riley, explaining how she was the official rabbit and KB judge at a field day for the Kamloops district. Maybe some of you were there. So that's what the expectation would be in terms of reporting. You don't have to do a record book or anything like that. It's just submitting these activity sheets as you go. We'd really encourage people to submit them right after they've done the activity, so they don't forget what has happened. So the sort of benchmarks around the ambassador program is once you submit 3 activity sheets, you're eligible for your second. Wrangler sponsors this program, although we've been having some problems with that lately. Wrangler's been a little bit of an unreliable sponsor. We're still waiting for our gear from this year, but on a year where we had actually received all the gear, once you'd submitted 3 sheets, you could get all your ambassador gear. 6 activities are required by October 15th. And the reason for that is that Some of the ambassadors don't have another project. You can do the ambassador program / project as one of your 4 options, or some people just do it as their only project. If it's your only project, sometimes districts have reached out to us or clubs and said, we have this member who's an ambassador, that's their only project. They've applied for a scholarship, for example, and we need to know if they've achieved, because that's a requirement for the scholarship. So we set the achievement benchmark purely to make it possible for you to be eligible for opportunities that might be decided in the fall. Before the ambassador program goes till the end of December. So you have to do 10 by December, but by October you have to do 6. And we'll say if you're on track with 6, then we'll consider you achieved, and then hopefully you can be eligible for those other opportunities. And then, like I said there at the bottom, 10 by the end of December. And then your second year would start and you would get a new checklist. It will be the same checklist year to year, with the exception of the teaching topic changes from year to year. And then maybe if something cool has come up, we might add, sometimes we add like a special social media opportunity or something like that. Like sometimes we do interviews for social media with the ambassadors. Okay, so this is our current ambassador team. So our first year ambassadors from Vancouver Island are Sophie. From the Fraser Valley is Olivia. From Kamloops, Okanagan, we have Chelsea and David. From the Kootenays, we have Ava. From the Central Interior, we have Jezebel and Amy. So in our first year group, we don't have anybody from the Yellowhead West or the Peace River. So these folks are going to be starting their second year of ambassador program in January of 2025. So if you applied for the ambassador program and you were selected, you would be working alongside all of the folks that are listed there in the first year column. Our second year ambassadors about to graduate. From the Fraser Valley, we have Victoria, Kira, and Sophie. From Kamloops, we have Jacob. From Central Interior, we have Joey and Lucia. And from Yellowhead West, we have Melvina and Evan. And from the Peace River, we have Jesse. And so from our second year group, we have no Vancouver Island or Kootenays. Now, the ambassador program quota annually is set up by the size of the region. So in BC, there's 7 4-H regions. The 3 largest regions, which are currently Fraser Valley, Kamloops, Okanagan, and Central Interior, get 2 guaranteed spots per year. And the other 4 regions, Vancouver Island, the Kootenays, Yellowhead West, and Peace River, get 1 guaranteed spot each. But sometimes if a region doesn't fill their quota, an extra spot might be available. So you can see, for example, graduating in second year this year in the Fraser Valley, there's 3 of them. There was only 2 designated spots that year, but they were able to pick up another spot from another area. So don't be disheartened if there's lots of folks from your area. You never know if your area is going to get extra quota. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to you, Danusha, to lead us through some questions. And I'm thinking I might stop screen sharing so that we can see people a little bit better. But maybe if you want to kind of review the questions and then we'll.
So we're going to talk, so you've heard all the dry run stuff, and now we really want to hear it from the ambassadors who feed her on the ground, what they're loving about it. And so we're going to talk about some highlights. I'm not going to remember these if you take it away, though. That's the only problem.
Okay, I can put it in the chat. I'll put it in the chat. So
thank you. Yeah, at this time of night, my brain is fried. So I'm going to pop over to, you know what? I'm going to start with Jezebel because she's in her first year. And so her experiences are kind of newer, and maybe you can relate to those. And then our other 2 ambassadors can speak to kind of some of the stuff they've got with experience. Do you remember those questions, Jezebel?
I do. I have them right in front of me.
You're so good. All right. So what is the first question?
So the first question is to share some highlights from your time as a 4-HBC ambassador. For me, that's mostly the opportunities that I get to teach other members in my district or my region. So since I'm a beef kid, I get invited to help out with beef camps. And I also enjoy getting to judge. So I got to judge at one of our local club's achievement days this year. I did poultry and foods. There was a goose in the ring and it was kind of scary, but we did it. And I also enjoyed ambassador training. There was some moments of slightly dry topics, but it was fun getting to know everybody and meet so many new people. And then the second question is, how does the ambassador program work for you around your school or work schedule? So really the only scheduled things that you have to attend are the webinars, which we already went over. There's 5 of them, and if you can't make them, they're recorded. We also get to kind of vote on the date that works best for you, so there's a pretty good chance that everybody will be able to make it. And then there's the ambassador training, which is one weekend and maybe 1 or 2 days off school, depending on what travel looks like for you. Other than that, it's just whatever local 4-H events you can go to. You're probably already going to them anyways, so it usually works out pretty well. And then the last question is, what advice do you have for people considering applying to the program? I'd say just do it. You really have nothing to lose. It's a lot of fun. Get to represent your region and just share 4-H with more people.
Awesome. Thanks, Jessica. Danusha has disappeared. So, oh, she's back. Okay. I was just gonna ask Malvina to go.
The dog's barking like crazy. Had to get them outside. All right. So Malvina's in her second year, and let's give some insights, Malvina, that you've discovered from your second year. What are some of the highlights from your time as a 4-HBC ambassador?
Okay, so with some of the highlights of my time as a 4-H ambassador, I would say that meeting the other ambassadors from like the first year, and also like, because the first time that like myself and also Jesse, we were first year ambassadors, it was kind of scary seeing the second year ambassador, wasn't it, Jesse? So we were like, I don't know, for me, I was a little bit like, whoa, they're like so like the big bosses, you know? But then afterwards, I was like kind of waiting and kind of very looking forward to being the second year ambassador, because then you would need to like, you know, look at the first year ambassadors, and then you can be like, hey, teach them some ways that you've learned as your first year, like the first time that you did it, and be like, hey, do this, don't do that, do like learn, kind of like you can share the ideas that you have experienced for your first year, and being the second year you can teach the things that you've done or some mistakes that you did and teach it to them, and then they could actually improve in expanding and sharing the 4-H program. So I would say that also getting the like that kind of like the kids, especially the 4-H members, when they see you having that like badge, like that little name tag saying 4-H ambassador, BC ambassador, and you wearing your golf shirt or the other t-shirt, the fancy one, they like will look up to you very like a lot. I've had experience with it this year. I went to Smithers actually for a fair, and all the kids were like, it's the ambassador, it's the ambassador. So like that will happen. The 4-H members, they will look up to you, and it's kind of a good experience because then you can teach them, and then they could apply to become 4-H ambassadors, and they can share their experiences with other youth. And overall, those would be my highlights. How does the ambassador program work for me around like your school and like schedule? Like Jessica also said, like all you have to do is you have to attend those virtuals if you can. Also the training weekend, depending on like the school as well, and just having a very organized schedule and organized planning it out your year, saying, okay, what days will I be able to go? What days will I not be able to go? What days can I do this? What can I do that? So I would say planning it out. Like I did a little bit of planning out, kind of worked, kind of not worked, but planning it, having a big gigantic calendar saying what you're going to do, that would be work best. And what advice would it be for people applying, considering to apply? Yeah, just it's a good opportunity. Like the youth will look up to you, the members will also look up to you, even the leaders will look up to you because of the amount of effort you're going to be putting it into being an ambassador, promoting the 4-H program. And also other people that aren't from the 4-H program, they're going to be like, wow, this person is so knowledgeable, has so much experience. I want to have my kids also have that experience and seeing all of the opportunities that they were able to do, traveling, meeting other people. Who doesn't want to travel? And it's such a good opportunity to having more knowledge. Like knowledge is power. So yeah, I would say just go for it. You'll have a wonderful time.
Melvina. All right, so we're going to toss it over to Jess. Now, a couple of points, Jessie, maybe you can touch on the fact that you've been alone up in your region as the only ambassador. And also Jess is currently going to the University of Calgary. So that puts a little bit of a twist. You've just started this fall, but maybe you can speak to that a little bit, how you're working that into your schedule. So first of all, some highlights from your time as a 4-H BC ambassador.
For sure. I would say one of the biggest highlights for me, that's a little bit different from what Jezebel and Malvina have said, have been learning how to interact with people and learning about different aspects of agriculture in sort of a professional sense. So it's nice to be able to have conversations with Natalie. She's the CEO of Turkeys BC or something like that. And, being able to sit down and have a conversation with her in that sense and be able to carry a conversation, that's something that's really neat to me. Also, getting to see how 4-H is viewed differently in different areas. So up here in the Peace River, we only have 2 different districts. And so, but even that, there's lots of variety in how they operate the 4-H program. So that was really big highlight for me. And then like Malvina said, getting to see and interact with and make really good connections with other ambassadors is really cool. And then how does the ambassador program work around my school schedule and things like that? Grade 12 for me was extremely busy, but like Malvina and Jezebel both kind of referenced, you're attending a lot of the events anyways as a 4-H member that provide really good opportunities for ambassador activities. And so, I really tried to build those activities and those opportunities into events that I was already attending, while also reaching out for some other ones. With university, it's been lots of online communication and collaboration with people that way. Even though I just started, I've still gotten quite a few activities done in the 2 months that I've been in university. And like Malvina sort of said, it's a lot of planning and, checking in with yourself on what deadlines you might have to meet or how you're progressing in your project. And advice for those of you who are here tonight, I would say it is a big commitment, but it is so worth it because you get to see 4-H really flourish and you get to help it get to a point where, you have kids that are learning together and collaborating on a project or at least getting ideas flowing. And that's really nice to see kids who might even be from different projects working together and telling each other a little bit about each of their projects. Yeah, there's plenty of opportunities for participation, and if you're attending 4-H events already, you might as well get involved and do your part to give back to a program that supported you.
Awesome. Thanks, Jessie and Malvina and Jezebel for sharing. I am a little disappointed that none of you mentioned your highlights as working with Sarah and myself, because really, I think that's some of the best parts of the program.
That's Jock's highlight. Yeah.
Awesome. So I think
what you get to be Frisco. We didn't put that in there, but I know you've been wondering who's in there. It's you. It's the ambassadors inside of Frisco a lot of the times.
So with that said, let's open up the floor. And if there's anything that we haven't touched on, or if you have any burning questions, raise your hand and or speak out, and we'll let the ambassadors do their best to answer them. If they can't do it, Sarah and I'll jump in.
One thing I was going to say, just while you're raising your hand or thinking about your questions, is Jessie is also the ambassador rep to the 4-HBC Foundation. So in your second year and even after you graduate, there are some other opportunities in 4-H that you can only access through the ambassador program. So the youth rep to foundation is an ambassador. The youth rep to provincial council is an ambassador. And then there's a national ambassador program called the Canadian, like 4-H Canada Youth Advisory Committee. And that person is always a graduated ambassador. That's like the one person from BC that participates. So lots of good opportunities, you know, come out of the ambassador program as well. So Jessie flew out to meet us in Vernon after she started school for a foundation meeting, along with Victoria, who's our council rep. Any questions? We must be so good at explaining things. Is there anything anybody, like anything you're wondering? I'm sure everybody else is wondering too. So don't hesitate if there's something on your mind. Okay. No questions. Easy. Well, another thing we didn't mention is that all of this is paid for. So there's no fee to participate in the ambassador program, and the training weekend and all your travel and whatnot affiliated with that, if you're selected, is covered by 4-HBC, well, by our generous sponsors. Okay.
You were going to go over some of the dates.
I
or-
am, yeah. I'm just pulling up my slide here so that if you are thinking that this is something that sounds like you might be interested in it, what do you do now? So the applications for the ambassador program are going to open on November 1st. That's going to be on the 4-HBC website. It's also going to be on 4-HBC social media, so keep your eyes out for that. Danusha, we could probably send this group of folks a link to, as we know that they're potentially interested. Those applications are going to be open, I believe, for a 2-week window, so you need to get your application in fairly quickly. Then what happens is the applications get sent to regional council. So as I mentioned earlier, each region has a quota. And so the regional council will know what that quota is, 1 or 2, and they will go through the applications for their region, and they'll choose who's going to get their guaranteed quota seats. And then they may, if they have additional applications, go through alternates and number them. So for example, if we had 2 spots in one region and 4 people applied, they would choose who gets the 2 spots and who's the first alternate and who's the second alternate. So those selections are made totally by regional councils, not by Danusha or myself or any of the other staff. Some of the regions do it just based on an application form. Others will have an interview to make their selection via Zoom typically. So once they report back to us who's been selected, then the staff takes the alternate applications and we would reallocate and choose any alternate seats between regions as needed. So the decision of the quota seats is made by the regional councils, and the selections of alternates is usually left to Danusha and myself. And then we reach out to inform applicants about their status. So one thing that I really encourage, either that you're accepted to the program and here's what to expect next, or you weren't selected this year and we would encourage you to apply again. And I really want to stress that because sometimes there's years where we have a lot of applicants and we're not able to take everyone. I know that's not normal with most of our other provincial programs, but because this is only 10, sometimes that happens. Sometimes the region has the discretion over how they make their decision about who's accepted, but sometimes they may end up favoring older members, thinking that younger members might have another opportunity to apply, because you can apply for this program all the way up until you're 20, 16 to 20. So if you weren't selected, I mean, I hope many of you will be interested in applying and will be selected, but if you're not selected, I don't want you to feel as though I wouldn't be a good ambassador. Lots of times the regions are like so disheartened if they can't accept everyone. So if you're not accepted, particularly if you're 16, which some of you mentioned that you are in your introductions, like please come back and apply again. And like we said, there's opportunity at all ages. This isn't something that is tremendously difficult to complete after high school. We have usually about half of our team in high school and half in university. So it's totally doable kind of regardless of people's situations, because like we said, there's kind of 6 dates that you need to be somewhere, and then the rest of it is up to you around your schedule. So you can figure out when you're going to do your 10 things. If you're at university in another province, you can load your schedule when you're back in BC to do all of the things when you're back, right? And that's totally up to you for planning. Any questions about the selections process or anything else? Okay. Well, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Danusha and I will send out the information when applications open, which is just going to be in a couple of weeks.